Come on, man, you helped out the blue guy. Help a brother out. Hey! Oh, hi. Well, this is awkward. Just under 10 years ago, Nintendo gave us Twilight Princess. They of course gave it to us incredibly late, as delay after delay finally had them waiting until they could put it out on the Wii. The obvious thought is that a delayed game has the potential to be a great game, but a rushed game is bad forever. So the question on everyone's minds, was it worth it? The overall response from the critics, as well as the community, was a resounding hell yeah! With an average Metascore of 96, with a 9.2 user score for the GameCube version, and the Wii getting 92 and 9.0 respectively, yeah, it was pretty much well received and seen as being very well worth the wait, the time, and the money. So a goddamn decade later, we finally get to ask the question, does it hold up? And good God, am I old. The first thing we find is that the HD update is damned gorgeous. Very rarely do the HD updates of games look so good, but it pretty much becomes obvious that this was a game built for widescreen. An odd note about the HD updates usually is that they take a game that's in 4:3 and upscale it, usually making it look awful in the process. However, it would appear that Twilight Princess doesn't suffer that little issue. After we get past graphical fidelity, the aesthetic, which remains wholly the same, still holds up and is fantastic to date. Much like the Wind Waker, deciding on an aesthetic design over graphical fidelity really pays off. As we make our way into gameplay, however, we start to see why we were reluctant to start a second playthrough. The startup is slow, easily clocking in about 30 to 45 minutes before I even begin to get into the meat of the gameplay. It's like they wanted to make sure you understood every little mechanic before letting you play the game, which really is a sign of bad things to come. As far as gameplay goes, it's incredibly linear, even for a Legend of Zelda game. There isn't a large ability to do things in differing orders, however you can still complete the Cave of Ordeals without getting the second claw shot. Exploration is more tedious than anything, as wide open maps are filled with very little to see or do. It becomes pretty apparent early on that the game doesn't so much have its own identity, as much as it tries to recapture the charm of Ocarina of Time. And while Zelda games have always been rather derivative of each other, the first 10 hours of the game feel like a complete rehash, and the final dungeon feels too much like a copy-paste of Ocarina. The dungeon items exemplify the old issue of 95% being used in their dungeon and then never again. There is a huge amount of missed opportunity with the items in the game, and the lack of usefulness squashes almost any desire to explore. When it comes to the problems with Zelda gameplay, this game is the paramount example of what the series does wrong. Story-wise, however, it's still my favorite in the series. Since Ocarina, the games have strived to make the journey feel less oppressively lonely, and for all the bad gameplay, Twilight Princess knocks it out of the park in this aspect. Midna is a charming, temperamental, and interesting addition to the game. Her presence creates a story that goes far beyond the norm for the series, and she takes center stage in ways that make me wish there were more of the game. Being the sub-titular character, however, we get a situation in which we meet Zelda early, come back after the first 3 dungeons, and then she's gone for the rest of the game. Unlike Ocarina, however, we don't get a creepy stalker to take her place. However, with what appears to be Zelda sacrificing her life to save Midna, I find it a little odd that she just appears at the end of the game. Midna creates the story arc and character growth that before had been severely lacking in the game's stories. She brings her own agendas, she comes to accept her faults, and even grows to take charge in her own right, rather than constantly relying on Link. Her cat-like look and demeanor, however, can come off a little off-putting for some when she gets a little too sultry asking Link for help finding the mirror. But what creeps you out is how I get my rocks off, so I'm good to go with that. As far as climax to the story goes, however, it really doesn't work. We learn about halfway through that Ganondorf might have something to do with Zant's power, and indeed Zant confirms it. After we kill Abraham Sapien, no seriously, look at him. Look at him! All he's missing is a little BPRD jacket. We just kinda go back to Hyrule Castle and boom! There's Dorf and Zelda. No big fanfare for Ganon's return, no explanation for how Zelda is still alive, just janky jank that leaves more questions than it answers. In the end, however, the world is still colorful and filled with crazy and interesting characters, fun and memorable personalities that, while not adding much to the story, stick in your mind for a long time, some a bit more disturbing than others. Agatha being the kind of person you simultaneously want to fuck and scream running into the night from. Just makes you feel dirty in all the right ways. And even Telma's little troop of warriors show up at Hyrule Castle to pretend they're capable of helping. And whatever this madness is.
You ask why Link only speaks in screams, and he asks how you cannot.
It's a confusing mixture of bad and good that makes me want to continue playing, but also frustrates the living hell out of me. Horse controls are complete shit, and yet the game makes you complete several fights on horseback, including a fight with Ganondorf. However, the final battle with Dorf is one of the best in the series, even if it starts off a little copy-paste from Ocarina. The controls can't seem to function right when locked onto an enemy, as left and right are relative to Link's position, not to the position of the camera, causing you to jump attack when you need to dodge. However, non-locked controls feel smooth as butter. I've never had such an easy time shooting a bow in these games, but don't bother asking me about the gamepad. I didn't care to find out, and I still don't. There is a hero mode for greater challenge that even flips the game like the Wii version of the original. And of course, there's this. This is always fun. Finally, scanning your Wolf Link amiibo grants you access to a new dungeon. However, all it is a cave of ordeals where you only play in wolf form. You can't complete it until about 95% of the way through the game, and even then all you get is a wallet that can hold 9,999 rupees. And I know what you're thinking, finally the magic armor might be useful! You're wrong. It's still pretty much useless except for cheesing dark nuts. So all in all, looking back a damn decade, the game still holds up as well as I remember it for good and ill. The HD update is just beautiful. But the million-dollar question is, for $60, is the game and an amiibo worth it? For newcomers and others who miss Twilight Princess, yes, definitely. The controls don't feel half as bad as voicing it makes them sound, and the story and the world they build are superb. But what if you're a veteran of the series, and have already completed the game? Is it worth $60? No! It's the same damn game you've played at least twice, just in widescreen. There is nothing new offered by the experience. The only thing they fucking change is they move some loot around so that when you're giving bugs to Agatha, you get the 1,000 rupee wallet, the first fucking gold bug, and then the last fucking gold bug gives you the 2,000 rupee wallet, and the rest is just fucking stamps! If you want the amiibo that bad, just get it off eBay or something. I'd say wait for the game to go down in price, but I still remember how long the original was out before the price dropped. It's a must-have for your collection, surely, but it's not worth the original price tag even with the amiibo. Sadly, I'm just a fucking whore. And Ganondorf still has the best death scene in this game ever. Look at that fucking badass. Anyway, I'm the TheNecroswanson, and praise hail Ganondorf.
I am Dorf, the great and powerful, and if you enjoyed the video, why not go ahead and give us a like? And if you want to see more in the future, I command you to subscribe.